joined together by this noble dream. Have you got that? So it's just all the good people, but the second line, part of this family, and the last line, we're joined together by this noble dream. Do that with me. This is a song for all the good people. Come on. All the good people who are part of this family. This is a song for all the good people. We're joined together by this noble dream. Well, this is a song for all of those dreamers who are looking for answers to come our way. Scientists, doctors, students, all seekers, we share in the hopes for a much brighter day. Come on now. Well, this is a song for all the good people, all the good people who are part of this family. This is a song for all the good people. We're joined together by this noble.
My production team is very into music, so I thought they were making this up. No, that is not Pete Seeger. I am actually gobsmacked at that. Mike Davis, you've been around this town a lot longer than I have, but in the 16 transition after we went to 17, that individual was presented to us as the single most powerful person in the United States government. That is Dr. Francis Collins. And that is singing today, earlier, I think, or yesterday, at an anti-Trump rally. You can't make this up. To tell people how powerful Collins was, I mean, he didn't even want to come and meet Trump in the transition. He was that powerful. He was like he was that powerful because he took NIH money and spread those billions of dollars around to every congressional district at every university in the country and was virtually untouchable by Congress. And there you see him out there. I mean, does he actually think he can sing? I mean, it's bizarro land. Mike Davis.
So Francis Collins was at the National Institutes of Health for a long time, and each one of these it's run by the director of the National Institute of Health, and eventually he became the director under President Obama. So I called the director the Pope because they think they're infallible. And then each one of the institute directors within the National Institutes of Health has a director, and I called them the Cardinals. And so when I was young, 20-some years ago, I worked at HHS, and I had to work with the Pope and these Cardinals to fill their scientific advisory boards to make sure that the money, the billions of dollars that NIH doles out to their buddies for grants isn't being misspent or isn't being used to fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan lab in China that led to COVID and the deaths of millions of people and the destruction of our economy for many years. And so I remember working with Francis Collins during that time of my life in 2001 and 2002 when he was a mere cardinal. He was a cardinal for one of the institutes before he got elevated to be a pope. But these people actually think that they really do think that they are the Pope and the Cardinal, that this is a separate, that they're holy and they're not accountable to anyone, particularly not accountable to the President of the United States.
Oh, no, we were like passing through. He was permanent. By the way, he's Tony Fauci's boss. I mean, Fauci was a grundoon. This guy's the man, right? You couldn't touch him. But he's now actively, he just retired under a big controversy, right? He's now actively part of the Never Trump campaign, the anti-Trump resistance. They're having sit-ins right now, and he's trying to be Pete Seeger, like in the anti-war movement back in the 60s. Mike, what's going to happen before Monday the 14th is they're talking about CR. Johnson tells us today it'll probably be delivered Tuesday. He promises it's going to be close to clean as possible, so theoretically it's not going to be 1,500 pages. Best case, we're going to talk about attaching, or maybe Elon just gives us some directional where we stand with the Doge money right now, which could be $50 billion, $100 billion, who knows? And that will then, the commitment will be, because they can't do it now, the commitment will be after you pass the CR, that sometime relatively quickly, Russ Vought, Paletta, and those guys would go to the president, and they will present to him items that they don't think either outside of programmatically or behind schedule, or he just doesn't see how they fit in, and they will go and challenge and basically impound the money and dare either Congress or the courts to say anything about it. How sure are you of this theory of the case? Because the other is rescissions, which the White House doesn't want to use because that's essentially going back to Capitol Hill, and you have to jockey there and get another vote. They want to do impoundment. They believe they have the right to do it. They believe that the appropriations bill, when they talk about the Constitution, that's a ceiling, not a floor. I mean, what odds do you put on this, given the fact that we're still hung up with the spending of the $2 billion, sir?
Well, regardless of what you think about Russ Vought and Mark Paoletta's views on impoundment, which is that these appropriations by Congress are a ceiling, not a floor, which I agree with. But even if you don't agree with that, at a minimum, the president has the power under Article 2 of the Constitution as the chief executive officer for domestic spending, as the commander in chief, especially for foreign aid, for foreign spending for defense. The president has that power under the Take Care Clause to make sure that there is not waste, fraud, and abuse. And if he's finding waste, fraud, and abuse, he can cut that out. He can impound it. He can make sure we're not spending money, for example, on transgender mice research that Congress never intended. Remember what we're doing with these appropriations. Congress is just doing big blocks of appropriations and delegating to the executive branch a huge amount of discretion on what they can spend this money on. And so President Trump and his team, like Russ voted OMB, Elon Musk, Mark Paoletta, they can just say, look, this is wasted money, and we want to take care that this money is not wasted. So we're going to send it back to the Treasury. We don't need this money. And they can do the same thing, particularly as commander in chief. For example, let's say that Congress passes a law saying that we're going to appropriate $100 billion to Gaza for humanitarian relief. And then the president finds out that that money going to supposed humanitarian relief in Gaza is actually going to fund Hamas terrorism that's going to kill American citizens, right? Of course, the president, as commander-in-chief, can prevent that money from going to Gaza and then to Hamas terrorists. But remember, this is what they did to President Trump before when they impeached President Trump for impounding money for Ukraine. But the president absolutely has the power, at a minimum, to impound waste, fraud, and abuse, or impound dollars that are against our national security interest.
So how quickly do you think that we actually end up there, and how quickly do you think the Supreme Court acts on this? Let's say they go to the impoundment in 30 days. So how long do you think this takes? I
think that you're going to have an active Democrat activist judge do a temporary restraining order, probably ex parte, nationwide injunction immediately. They'll go to one of these whack job judges in D.C. or Sheldon Whitehouse's buddy up in Rhode Island or some other left-wing judge, and then it should get to the Supreme Court quickly. And it really depends on if the Chief Justice and Justice Amy Coney Barrett are actually going to follow the Constitution and allow the duly elected president of the United States to carry out his electoral mandates and go after waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal government, or if they're going to come up with excuses procedurally to prevent that from happening. And if they're going to say, for example, that these bogus TROs that these activist judges are issuing, they're illegal, they're unconstitutional, and they're not even temporary restraining orders. They're not even TROs. They are preliminary injunctions with nationwide, with nationwide effect. If the Supreme Court's going to say that those aren't appealable because they're TROs, they're going to allow these Democrat activist litigants and judges to play that game, then they're going to hobble the presidency. And here's the bigger problem, and I mean this. You're already seeing the American people get very frustrated with these activist judges. If the Supreme Court does not stop this, if they don't step up and stop these activist judges from sabotaging the president of the United States exercising core Article 2 executive power to take care that our laws are faithfully executed, to make sure that our foreign aid under the Commander-in-Chief Clause doesn't go to Hamas terrorists, when the court loses its legitimacy with the American people, it doesn't have an army. The court does not have an army. It does not have an enforcement mechanism. It has to rely on the executive branch to enforce its orders. And so if it loses its legitimacy, it's going to lose everything. So I hope the Chief Justice and Justice Amy Coney Barrett understand how grave this is. If they don't stop these activist judges from sabotaging the president's Article 2 executive powers. Trump is not stealing legislative power under Article 1 from Congress. He's not stealing judicial power from the Supreme Court under Article 3. These federal judges are sabotaging the president of the United States over policy and political disagreements, and this is unacceptable. This is a red line, and the Chief Justice needs to stop it.
How serious is this crisis that's brewing on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being DEFCON 1, being as high as we could get? Where would you put it right now?
11, because guess what? I'm hearing from a lot of Chamber of Commerce type lawyers that they're even getting very black-pilled on this issue. Like, for example, the federal judiciary has about a $10 billion annual budget, and I've proposed that Congress take that $2 billion that this radical Canadian citizen Obama judge in D.C., Judge Ali, has said that the president has to piss away with USAID funding and get it out the door immediately. I have proposed that because the Supreme Court may allow this to happen, that Congress just takes that $2 billion right out of the federal judiciary's budget, 20% cut right away to the federal judiciary's budget. And I'm actually surprisingly hearing even from the Chamber of Commerce FedSoc wing of the Republican Party, the WEMPs, they're actually pretty excited about that idea. So I hope the Chief Justice understands that by allowing these activist judges to sabotage the presidency, they're creating a constitutional crisis, and the federal judiciary is going to lose and lose badly in this process.
Watch this space. Mike Davis, Article 3. Where do people go, sir?
Article3project.org, article number 3project.org. Follow us on social media. Donate, but only as much as you can afford, and then take action. That's the most important thing you can do, is when the War Room posse gives the Senate or whoever we're targeting an attitude adjustment. It's the most powerful force in politics.
Yeah. Mike, personal social media so people can follow you?
Well, if I don't get kicked off, it's MRD DMIA, MRD DMIA. I have been pretty harsh on Justice Amy Coney Barrett on there. So hopefully she has an attitude adjustment.
Pretty harsh. Mike Davis, thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you.